What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about an easy way to drastically improve your life. So I'm going to preface with the topic of mental health. Now, in today's age, mental health is treated as something that is a medical condition, right? So you got to go see a doctor. The doctor prescribes you some drugs to take to help, make the mental health condition better, right? It's almost seen as something that is outside of the realm of our control and something that we're a victim of. Now, I don't think that viewing it in this light is very good, because similarly to our physical health, mental health, I think, is something that we have control over. Our physical health is simply the reflection of our choices. Did we choose fast food? Did we choose whole foods? Did we choose to go to the gym, or did we choose to just sit around and not go to the gym? Now, in most cases, mental health can be treated similarly to this. It comes down to whether we made the right choices for our mental health, and a lot of the times, we don't. We don't, man. The main one being scrolling social media, dude. Nobody feels good from just sitting around and scrolling and being overstimulated with instant gratification content, because that's really what a lot of this stuff is it's just instant gratification. We're not putting in any effort to receive a reward. We're just receiving that reward from scrolling our thumb, pretty much. And that's not good for our brains. Delayed gratification is probably one of the best things for our brains. So when we put in some work and we don't see the results right away, if you notice a pattern with delayed gratification, is most good things are related in some way to delayed gratification, right? So building a better physique would definitely be delayed gratification. Building businesses, making money, getting better grades, like all this is delayed gratification. Just because you study once, or you read one business book, or you work for 10 minutes on your business, you're not going to see proportionate rewards to that activity right away, but you will see exponential rewards after a certain threshold of time and work has been done. Another thing is that when you're consuming this instant gratification content on social media, you need increasing levels of stimulation on the content to get the same enjoyment out of it than you did before. So once you scroll enough and enough, the same content that maybe 10 minutes ago was entertaining for you, you become numb to it essentially. And now you need crazier and more stimulating content to get that same level of enjoyment that you did in the beginning. And that is dangerously close to how drug addiction works. And before you say, oh, that's not me, like I don't spend that much time on my phone, I would invite you to just check out your screen time and honestly look yourself in the mirror and say, this is an acceptable amount of time to be spending just scrolling away my mind and my soul on social media. Because honestly, most of the time, we don't even realize that we're spending this much time on social media until you actually start tracking it, until you actually keep it visible. And that's something too I would recommend, is put the widget on your phone for screen time so you can actually see how much time you've spent during the day on your phone. And just doing things like this brings that awareness to what is really happening. And honestly, if you're someone who cannot stop scrolling, it's not 100% your fault, because these companies have gigantic teams of software engineers who are working to optimize the algorithms and optimize every bit of the platform to keep you as hooked and addicted for as long as possible. And honestly, it's evil that these companies are doing this because they knowingly are damaging the mental health of millions and millions of people. Another thing too that social media and basically just that addicting scrolling does to you is it damages your ability to just be in the present moment. It's like once you get off your phone and you go outside, you even see around you, like, people just walk around like this. Like, people do not even look up anymore, man. It's crazy. People just walk around like this. They don't look up. They don't say hello. It's not good. It's not good for us. And it's like, you know that already, right? You know that in you, that it's not good for you to just be sitting, scrolling away all this time. You may not realize how bad it actually is for you, but you know it's not good for you. And when I say it's bad for you, it is. It's not healthy for you to be stimulated with that much dopamine all the time when you haven't even put in any sort of effort to do anything. That's why it's actually so hard for you to do things that are slightly difficult. And that's why it's hard for you to focus, because your brain is so conditioned and so used to just having the reward immediately, just receiving the reward immediately without doing anything. That's why when you sit down and you try to do your schoolwork or you try to do any form of deep work, it is surprisingly difficult for you to focus on that work. And by the way, I don't think social media is an inherently bad thing. I think it has its place and has its uses for business and networking. I understand that. But when you are just sitting, basically just scrolling away the day, that's when it gets bad. It can get bad quick with that. Because you can go from, oh, I'm just gonna check something on Instagram, I'm just gonna check something on my phone. And you end up just sitting around, just scrolling for like 30 minutes. An hour passes by, a couple hours pass by. You don't even realize this. It feels like 5 minutes to you. And that's what's really dangerous. And that can happen so damn quick. So now you may be thinking, how do I stop scrolling? Like, how do I actually put the phone down? Because a lot of times it isn't that simple. Because these apps have literally been optimized to be as addicting as possible. Of course it's not going to be that simple, because it's your willpower against the brains of hundreds and thousands of software engineers. You got to go on a dopamine detox. That's what I would recommend for the quickest progress in this area. Say for a week, I'm deleting social media apps and I'm just not going to touch it for a week. And you'll realize during this time, hopefully, that, like, man, I don't really need this stuff. Like, it doesn't provide much to my life at all. Like, I don't really need this. Now, during this week, you are going to be very bored. Probably more bored than you've ever been. Now, the way you get through this is to just stick with it. Just tell yourself, this is for the betterment of my mental health and I need to get through this. Another thing you'll realize too is that it's in these moments of boredom, like, where you start to learn how to be more present and just be okay just sitting and not, scrolling. You can just sit down and think and actually have thoughts, right? Like, it's so crazy. Like, once you're not stimulating yourself all the time, you actually, like, start to have insightful thoughts. Another thing too is now you're gonna have a lot more time because you're not just spending hours scrolling. So you may be thinking, what should I do with this time? Well, you can do things that will actually reverse the negative effects that social media had on your mental health. So you can do things like meditate, journal, exercise. All these kind of things are actually generative for your mental health. They help nurture it and better it, rather than, the degenerative thing of just scrolling, which does damage to your mental health. So now you're going to be repairing it while you're taking a break from the damaging stuff too. And the goal is by the end of this week, you want to have leveled your baseline again of mental health, essentially. Because a lot of the times when you're just scrolling, your mental health is not good. Your default mental health is kind of like on edge and like kind of like unhappy. Once you stop doing that, once you stop scrolling, the baseline returns to normal. And you start to feel a lot more happy because you're more present. You're doing what is actually better for your mind and your life. So of course you're going to feel better. It's like I talked about before. When you are making choices for your physical health that benefit your physical health in the future, of course your physical health is going to improve. The same thing goes for your mental health. When you make choices that are good for your mental health and will benefit it in the future, of course your mental health will get better. I definitely want to encourage you to go on a dopamine detox or some form of it, right? So if you're, for whatever reason, you refuse to go on a dopamine detox, you refuse to delete these apps for a week for the betterment of your own mental health. The truth is, if you refuse to do that, you will not get the same results as someone who will. Not even close. The results will be night and day. So this goes for both those cases, where people who feel like they can never delete the apps in the first place and people who feel like they need to go back to the apps. What do these people do? Now, you can do nothing and this will do nothing for you. Or you can place time limits on the social media apps on your phone. So I would recommend like max of like a 25-minute limit, maybe. Like that's a lot. But when you have that limit, you are able to use your better judgment now to say, all right, this is the max amount of time I want to spend on the app, rather than when you're actually being like stimulated by the app and you're like, oh, only like 5 more minutes and it ends up being like 2 hours. I definitely encourage you guys to try a dopamine detox, especially if you feel that these apps are negatively impacting your mental health, which it's almost inevitable that they are. Like, I don't think these apps provide anything good for your mental health. It just comes down to how much of a negative effect they're having on your mental health. So hopefully you guys will go out and try this and see that it actually makes your life a lot better. I'll see you guys in the next one.